Okay. Welcome everyone to the Municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc, a regular council session on Monday, May the 6th. Welcome everyone to the Caradoc Community Center here in lovely Mount Bridges. Do the land acknowledgement. The Municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc acknowledges it is located on Treaty 21 territory. We are thankful to the generations of people who have taken care of this land, including the Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, the Munsee Delaware First Nation, and the United Nation of the Thames. I'm going to take an opportunity, I'm going to read our vision and mission statement because I know there are folks who are here for the first time. So our vision is Strathroy-Caradoc's communities will provide economic opportunities, well-being, and places to call home for residents and businesses. Our mission statement is, we serve the communities of Strathroy-Caradoc by delivering modern municipal services, proactively planning for the future, and facilitating partnerships that advance our goals. That being said, roll call, all are present this evening. Clerk? Motion to approve the agenda. Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Brennan, all in favor? Carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest? Councillor Wilsey?
I have a property that's involved in the Thornton drain.
Okay. Okay. I think Councillor Willie, the normal practice is, but since we're tight for space, when we get there, you can just stay in your seat. How's that? Okay. Approval of minutes. We have 3 minutes in front of us to approve. I'd like to approve them as a whole. Anyone have any questions or concerns on the previous minutes? Seeing none, motion to approve the meeting minutes of April 11th, April 15th, and April 23rd. Someone to bring a motion? Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Carried. So we do have one drainage matter in front of us, is the Thornton drain. Motion to receive the report first. Councillor Hippel, second by Councillor Pelkman. All in favor? Carried. So I know Director Huff, who is going to speak on the drainage matter.
Actually,
Yep.
we have a member from the Spring Associates.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. We are here tonight for the consideration for the Thornton Drain 2024. This is a Section 78 request to relocate an existing municipal drain to facilitate redevelopment of this parcel for 2 future residential lots. So the existing Thornton Drain went through these to the area where these 2 properties will be developed, and it's been relocated in the rear behind these. It is slightly larger than an agricultural standard in its current capacity. At the on-site meeting, Mike DeVos reviewed with the owners upstream if there was any concerns with the existing capacity, and there was not any concerns. So this has been replaced with a similar design standard what's existing, which is a 60 mil coefficient. The estimated cost to replace this drain is estimated at $86,700, and that is solely borne by the proponent in this situation. There is no assessments to any of the affected parties except for the person completing the severances. There is an updated assessment schedule here which reflects the future maintenance of this drain. That schedule has been designed in such a manner or formatted in such a manner that if the whole length of this drain was replaced, they would pay less for the replacement than they would currently pay for the replacement of the existing drain. We can get into details further on that on the quarter revision, which is the subsequent meeting to tonight's meeting. This, I guess I didn't mention the location. This is just south of Park House and east of Droops Road. And if there's any questions, I would welcome them through you, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone from any property owners present have any questions?
I have a question.
Yep, you come on up and stand up and introduce yourself.
My name's Jody Kennedy. I live on Troops. I have a question about the part in your letter that refers to the Burko drain. If you can tell us how that impacts it.
Yep, so currently at the outlet of the Burko drain, there is some localized failure from where the water is going down the slope. So there is an outlet pipe that needs to be replaced there. As part of this project, we are going to be building a new rock chute, thick quarry stone, almost like a rock chute. I don't know how to describe it more accurately, to convey the water from the top of the slope to the bottom of the slope. None of that cost is being charged to the Burco, but the cost to reestablish that outlet pipe is going to be charged to the Burco drain, which is under the existing bylaw. They have the authority to replace that existing outlet pipe. There is nothing that contravenes the existing bylaw to do so. Does that make sense?
Not really. What do you mean? I don't know what you mean about
The
who's
bottom-
gonna pay for it.
There's the bottom 20 feet of that pipe has failed,
Yep.
so they're going to replace that. There is an existing bylaw that the municipality has passed in the past, and that tells them direction on how to assess that. So every single person who puts water through that pipe pays a little bit of it. We're talking very small numbers in this situation. I would anticipate the larger owners might be a couple $100s towards that replacement. But that is, like I said, facilitated from the existing bylaw. That really isn't tonight's meeting, but we were just in the area, and it makes sense to, when you see a problem, you fix it, right?
Okay. Okay, any other questions from any members of the public?
So this drain,
Oh, thank you. Introduce yourself and,
Gary Wolf,
yep.
yeah, also live on Troops Road. This purple drain, is it draining my property?
If you've received a copy of the report, yes, you are likely receiving drainage. Can you come to the map here and identify your property? Yep.
Right here.
Yeah.
That's
The Wolf's
George's.
property?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's an existing branch A
Yeah.
drain that's on your property.
That's storm. Right, but you're talking to the Burco.
Oh, the Burco's over here.
Yeah.
No, the Burco won't drain yours. The Thornton will drain your property.
Yeah,
Um,
and
the-
then, so like, what cost is, because you keep saying you gotta fix this.
That's being, the landowner is going to pay for that as part of this report, so you are not paying towards that
Okay,
at this point. So, the Burco is just going to pay for their pipe. The rock chute is gonna be covered as part of this report, which the owner of this property, the Smith's property, is paying for the full cost of this report. So there's no assessment to your property at this point.
how come it says that on here? That everybody's just assessed. Percentage,
Yeah, so
right here. Why
This-
does it say that here?
I will try to explain this. This really is a matter for the next meeting. You're fine with me continuing?
No,
with this
go
on
ahead.
formal
No,
format?
yep,
Yeah,
go ahead.
okay.
You got a
Because
question?
that's what it says.
Yes,
I
so
know what
this-
I owe.
Yeah, this
I
is,
did the figuring out, I go, why?
this is for future maintenance. So there is a existing bylaw, which has been passed, and I can,
But it doesn't say future on this.
it says assessment for maintenance. So this cost here, if you read the report, there's a paragraph that says this landowner is going to pay this entire cost. This is only for future repairs. So if in 50 years the system needs to be replaced,
Well, I
that's.
won't be around.
That, yeah.
So why didn't it say the homeowner's paying for it? Why, it says future maintenance? It should have been dated.
Yeah, I can't predict when future maintenance is.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's not gonna happen in the next 10 years,
No.
right? So it should have been dated, saying,
Yeah,
this is a future cost to you, the possible landowners.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it makes it sound like it's today.
No, sorry, we would have given you very clear, precise numbers if it was today. Right here, right in this paragraph here, we assess the entire cost of this report to the property. That's the 86,700 being to that roll number. So that is, this property here is paying the entire cost, 86,700. This is future cost to replace it, which is been developed based on the existing bylaw, which you contribute to replace the existing system now.
Okay.
And it's been done such that everybody's been reduced upstream so that you wouldn't pay more for a future replacement than you currently pay.
Does that help?
Not really. Where does the Burco drain run?
That's not ours.
No.
It's not our drain.
Greg, did you say that it ran across the back of London?
Yeah. I apologize. Councillor Wilsey declared a conflict of interest, so you ask God through us and we can answer. I apologize just because Councillor Wilsey declared a conflict. So
Okay.
you can ask.
The
Does the
Burko,
Burko drain run through the back of the Glendon Drive properties?
no, it runs to the northeast and goes
No.
around the bend, like essentially like where Park House and Glendon merge, and then it goes around the bend to the east.
On Glendon?
On the other-
On Glendon
On
Park
the other
House.
side of the four, near the 402.
So,
I know where it is on that side, like on your side of the field.
would you
But
like to
when
look
it
at this map?
crosses-
It does
yeah.
show the, you know, the starting location of the drain. So this
So
is
where
the,
are we
this is
buried?
the,
Okay, we're right here. Here's me, here's you.
And here's the Burko?
No,
this is the Thornton drain.
Okay.
This is the Burko, which
Burko's going this
serves to
way.
the east.
See it this way? Over here. It's a Burko.
Okay, so it's this side of Glendon that it will affect,
Yeah.
and where the new house is.
But they're trying to say it also helps the drain house.
I don't need water back there.
I don't think anybody's saying the Burko, like, this is the watershed for the Thornton drain.
Yeah.
And, you know, your property, except for a very, very small amount, is fully contained within this Thornton drain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're not paying the 86,000.
No, that's
Okay.
solely for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I
Like I
will make
said,
it
there's
to you.
more detailed
Only-
matters on the scheduled assessment for
Yep.
future maintenance. We will get into them at the quarter revision, which
Okay.
is the subsequent
All right.
reading, assuming this passes tonight.
Yep, thank you. Are there any requests from those present to add or remove their names from the petition? Any comments or questions from members of council? Okay. Seeing none, make the decision that the motion that council adopt the engineer's report for the Thornton Drain 2024 and give first, second reading to provisional bylaw number 40-24 for the project. Someone to bring the motion. Councilor Brennan, second by Councilor Kennis. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Any questions for the discuss outside?
So we have a number of communications in front of us. We have 12. Does anyone wish to remove any for discussion? Okay. Councilor Pamela.
6.1, I think we need a decision on that one.
Okay, yep. Any others? Councilor Kennis?
6.7.
6.7. Any others? I have one, and that is 6.3, the request from a resident, Kevin Springer. And then 6.8, the motion from the county of Hastings. So we have a motion to pass all the others. I'm going to bring a motion to pass 6.2, 6.4, 6.5, 6.6, 6.9, 6.10, 6.11, and 6.12. So I'm going to bring a motion. Councilor Kennis, second by Councilor Pammer. All in favor? Carried. Councilor Pammer, did you want to speak? The action is to approve the request from the Strathroy Hometown Festival. Are there any comments or questions? Do you have any? Or
Oh, just make a comment that this is just, it appears to be the same as they do every year. The request to extend for noise going a little bit later. So the June the 14th would go to 1 a.m., June 15th to 1 a.m., and June 16th, which is the Sunday, I believe, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., and that's for the live bands in the park, as per regular events at Strathroy Hometown Festival.
Okay. Someone to bring a motion to approve. Councilor Hippel, seconded by Councilor Brennan. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. 6.3 is from a resident, Kevin Springer. We have a request to waive the water service connection fee. I have some questions I can ask Director Dakin to maybe help me out here, and because it did come through me, request, do we have the possibility to waive the fee, and are there any other options, Director?
Through you to yourself, so council can waive any fee, that's their prerogative. And then other options, I think the only other option is to pay the fee. So
Okay.
you can pay it or waive it.
Okay. Any questions? Councilor Brennan, then Councilor Derbyshire. Yep.
I guess my question would be, what are the extenuating circumstances that would have us waive this fee in this situation? And I don't really see any beyond the fact that the person says it's going to cost a lot. So I don't know who that question would be to, because I think I'd need more details before I would waive this fee, because I just don't know why.
Yep. Just give me one second. Okay. Okay, we have no other information at this time, Counselor.
Could I make a motion?
Yeah.
Could we defer a decision until we have more information about the extenuating circumstances so we can consider this more fully?
Okay. Do we have a seconder? Then I'll get to your question, Counselor Derbyshire. Are you second that? Okay, Counselor Derbyshire, you had a question. There's been a motion on the floor.
Yeah, he was just, I guess it's more of a comment, and I guess a question when it says a large fee, it doesn't actually say the amount. I do believe this is something we changed, did we not?
Yeah,
Change this connection from the 17.5
to the actual cost.
right, which would lower that, I would think, significantly, considering it says he has a budget of $2,000, so.
Yep. I think that's what the actual one is, but when we vote on Counselor Brennan's, and we'll get more information on.
But is he asking for a reduction from that high 17 or from the new one?
Is what we don't.
Or just in general?
I don't know.
No one really knows.
Okay, so, yeah,
So I'm just reading the email from the gentleman, sorry, through you to the chair. So it says, I'm asking that the budget, I did not budget to include the $2,000 fee. I think that's the water meter, it's not a connection.
okay.
Sorry, it's actually the water connection charge. He's paid for the water meter, he's paid the actual permit fee itself, but the water connection charge, which is $19.35. That's
Okay.
the fee that he's
That's
requesting
that,
to be
okay.
waived.
Okay, we still have a motion on the floor. All in favor of deferring until we get further information? All in favor? There. Counselor Cadiz, oh, sorry, Counselor Heppel, are you?
Well, I just, a question, and I mean, yes, I know the motion is done, but I mean, I feel like we just got the information. So I'm like, I know we just deferred it, but at the same time, I think Director Huff just gave us the information, so deferring would, I mean,
Yeah.
are we just gonna get the exact same information that
No, I think when
Director Huff
Counselor
gave
Brand
us?
was trying to find out the mitigating circumstances as to
Oh.
why. Counselor Pelkman?
Yeah, and I also want to know who communicated to who when.
Yep.
That's an important piece.
Yep. Item 6.7, Counselor Cass.
This is regarding a letter from the city of Sault Ste. Marie, and that they've sent to all municipalities, and the original letter is to the Prime Minister, asking for beefing up legislation dealing with intimate partner violence. It's something I mentioned that seems to be a troubling rise within our own municipality, and so just very simply, I supporting this correspondence by sending a letter of support that there's just no room for domestic and intimate partner violence in any community, and so I think whatever the law can do to strengthen mitigation of that happening, I fully support. So I'd like to make a motion to support, send a letter of support for this initiative.
Okay, do you have a seconder, Counselor Hippel? Any questions? Counselor Wilsey?
Who are we sending it to? There's a list of all municipalities plus about 15 or 20 organizations and things like that. I don't know who we're sending a letter to.
I'm not sure who we normally send these things to, but
Yeah, Clerk?
Through the Charter, Councillor Kine. So typically, I would recommend sending to the appropriate member of federal parliament and provincial parliament, rather than circulating to all municipalities. I can see in this case, if we would like to forward to the minister, so the Prime Minister, the Honourable Sean Fraser, Minister of Housing Infrastructure, I would say all of the political dignitaries or authorities and cap it at that rather than circulating to all municipalities in Ontario.
Yeah, I'm totally good with that, so.
Okay. Deputy Mayor.
Just a quick question through you, Your Worship. Is the motion, Councillor Kennis, that we support the letter that Sault Ste. Marie is like, so we're attaching a letter to their letter?
Yeah, I guess just
Conduct?
supporting their request or their, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to understand what it was we were doing. Thank you.
Okay, other questions? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. I'd like to speak to 6.8, the letter from Hastings County regarding sustainable infrastructure for small rural municipalities. We've all talked about the funding gap. We heard it, recently in the by-election. I heard it again when I was at OSUM, and I think whoever is in power at the time, there is the funding gap. We feel it whenever we go to our budget. I believe it's a real thing. So I'd like to make a motion that we send a letter of support to the Premier, that we support the letter from Hastings County.
Just, did you happen to note, though, they said in their letter that it was for populations of 10,000 or less?
Yeah, I did see that, but at some point, they have another one on here too about Hastings has another one, but I figure anytime we can piggyback and make the plea for more money.
Yeah, I would suggest we rewrite our letter, though, to include small urban municipalities.
Okay. Okay, do I have a seconder on the motion? Councillor Kennis. Any questions? Councillor Kennis.
Just to add on to what you've said, Mr. Mayor, I was at the OGRA conference about 2 weeks ago, and the number that was floating around that conference was 45 billion in shortfall in infrastructure funding out in the province, and then I've heard numbers go up from there. So it's a lot of money, and a lot of municipalities are struggling to maintain the infrastructure within their municipalities.
Any other comments, questions? Councillor Wilsey.
I was gonna do this at the end, but just last week, I was out in Alberta opening up a facility that I'd helped design, and was speaking with the mayor there. So as just part of the facility, in the last 5 years, they've had hundreds of millions of dollars added to their assessment, and the only way that they have a city that they're a little bit larger in land area. They have the same population as Strathroy. Their biggest town is 14,500, which is approximately the same size as Strathroy. Their tax base in that town is 80% residential, and they said with where they're at, that township would be bankrupt without the industrial that they've got. The way that they've able to down is they did up a brand new industrial park right on Highway 2, just outside of Edmonton. They're about half an hour out, same as we are from London, a lot of similarities. Their number 2 is very similar to the 402, and they were able to turn it around, and they have one of the lowest tax rates and the highest positive budgets with no infrastructure deficit, and everything is all paid for at a current without any debt, just for the infrastructure they built up. So I think that's something that we've been talking about here. I think if we want to do this, rather than, I don't think asking for money is a bad thing, but I think if we were to take some direction, we can, over the long term, fix it
North or
ourselves.
south of Edmonton?
South.
Okay, I'll figure out where it is.
I can tell you later.
Yeah. Okay, can I have a motion, second motion in front of us? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
We just have a resolution accepting the final ones for information.
Yep, motion to accept all the last ones from 6-1, 6-3, 6-7, 6-8 to receive those. Someone to bring motion, Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Palmer. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, folks. Okay, 1 minute here. Too much paper tonight. We have 3 notices of motion. They're not to be voted on this evening. They're for the next council meeting. We'll go to the reports from departments, financial services. First, the only one is the final tax rate bylaw. Motion to receive the report first. Councillor Brennan, second by Deputy Mayor. All in favor? Carried. Director Dakin.
Thank you.
Final tax rate bylaw.
Through the chair to council. So before you is a report to institute the tax rate bylaw for the 24 final tax rate. You can see that our assessment's growing just under the 2%. And the bylaws attached for the bylaw portion of the meeting. Is there any questions on that?
Any questions of Director Dakin?
Actually, I have to-
Yep.
Just one quick one. So in your last sentence there, Director, the total increase of assessment is about 1.72%. The word "about," is that because it's probably 1.7, blah, 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 blah? Thank you.
Okay. No other further questions? Motion to bylaw number 43-24 be referred to the consideration of bylaws section of the agenda for approval. Someone to bring the motion. Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Building and planning. We have a few in front of us. First is the draft sign bylaw. Motion to receive the report. Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Hippel. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you, Council. So tonight's report before you has to do with the potential crafting of a sign bylaw for the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc. So a sign bylaw is intended to regulate the placement of signage within a municipality. It includes permanent, temporary signage, real estate signs, inflatable signs, all manner of signs. And really it's an information report in response to Council's request for one made earlier in the year. The report details the authority that the municipality has to pass a sign bylaw, what a sign bylaw can include. It also includes a number of different pictures of the various sign types that would be potentially regulated. And I've also attached an example sign bylaw to illustrate how it would potentially work in the municipality. All this information has been based on staff reviewing a number of other sign bylaws in the area, including Middlesex Centre, Clearview, Township of Southwest Middlesex, St. Thomas, London, just to name a few. And I'll also note that we've had some interest from a local real estate association contact us knowing that there was potentially some interest in developing a sign bylaw, and they wanted to know what potentially it would include relative to real estate signs in particular. So if council is receptive or wishes to, for staff to further develop a sign bylaw, what I've done is I've included a number of questions that staff would appreciate some direction on in order to craft a sign bylaw that council wishes. And so I've detailed some of those questions at the end of my report. And some examples of those are just plainly, is there a desire to regulate the number and size of billboard signs in the municipality? Or ground signs in the municipality? Is there a desire to regulate real estate and pointer signs for the municipality, as well as digital or illuminated signs? Is there a desire to regulate the location of election signs in the municipality? Many municipalities actually pass election sign bylaws specifically if they haven't done so already prior to an upcoming municipal election. And it's noted some municipalities actually use the sign bylaw in order to achieve kind of a singular sense of look in a particular area of their municipality. So say a historic downtown area would have some very specific regulations in their sign bylaw if you wanted to do that. So if that's something that council is interested in, certainly we could do something to that effect. Many sign bylaws include an appeal or variance option that would be subject to consideration by the Committee of Adjustment. Is there a desire to add a grandfathering clause? And, or, you know, if there's things that I've missed that you wish staff to include in a sign bylaw, we're certainly here to receive your comments and suggestions.
Okay.
So at that, I'll leave it open for council input. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Wilsey, your hand's up.
I'm just thinking there was an awful lot of questions there, and the last time we had a bylaw that came up was for the purchasing bylaw, and we deferred that to special meetings that are gonna be started and regularly going by council starting, I believe, next month. So I'm wondering if we should defer this sign bylaw until that meeting when we can actually, with all those questions in council, we're only allowed to answer two as a councillor. So there's way more than that. I think it's a bigger discussion than just one or two questions and off it goes.
Yeah, you're talking about the priorities, the meetings?
We've got one coming up for the purchasing bylaw.
Right.
There's we're gonna have a special
Okay.
committee meeting just to discuss things outside the council, so I just defer it to
Yep,
whatever
fair enough.
that meeting's titled.
Okay.
Through yourself, but just to comment, I agree with Councillor Wilsey because I was looking through this and I thought, well, how do we send emails to Director Huff? Do we all send emails to each other? We can't really do that. Like, how do we do this? And I think that the best plan of action is for us to actually sit down and work through this. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think this is a good thing, but I mean, there are, like Councillor Wilsey said, there's a ton of questions on there that we really need to work through together. If possible, I mean, nobody wants a million more meetings. I'm not trying to do that, but I do agree with Councillor Wilsey. I think this should be something that should be deferred so we can actually talk to it and to one another.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Canis.
I just that I'm fully supportive of a sign bylaw within the community, and if another meeting to go through some of these different scenarios is helpful, then I'm fine with that. But I do think we need a sign bylaw because signs can get out of hand within the community. So.
Yep. Councillor Wilsey, I think you need to bring, if you want to bring a motion,
Yeah,
you may have a seconder and you may get support. So.
Yeah, I'll bring a motion that we defer this. Can I get the name of the meetings that we're deferring it to?
This is Strategic Priorities Committee.
I'd like to make a motion that we defer the draft sign by law to the Strategic Priorities Committee.
Okay. Second by Councillor Hippel. All in favor? Carried. Next is the proposed changes, Bill 185, or proposed 2024 to the provincial planning statement. Motion to receive the report first. Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Canis. All in favor? Carried. Do you wish to speak to the report?
Sure, just briefly. And
So we're just receiving it.
I'm just going to hammer home the point that since 2021, the province has changed provincial legislation 10 times at least. And some of them have been going in one direction and then repealed. And Bill 185 includes both new direction and repeals of various things that they have introduced recently. There's some pretty consequential proposals in this most recent legislation, both in terms of Planning Act, development charges, as well as a number of other acts. Good news is for development charges that they seem to be going in the right direction in terms of reversing some of the decisions that they previously made to reduce the amount of things that can be collected by DCs. So we are now able, under this legislation if passed, able to collect for DC studies themselves, zoning bylaws, official plans. So that's back in, as well as they've reduced the phase-in period, which provides for a more consistent ability to calculate development charges. With respect to the proposed provincial policy statement, so you will recall about this time last year, they issued a draft provincial policy statement. Provincial policy statement is really the land use planning framework that the province of Ontario imposes on municipalities and outlines the things and that you should plan for and how you should plan for them. And so again, some big changes in that. They've been outlined in this report. The County of Middlesex has prepared a fact sheet on those changes that are also attached. But I'd also encourage you to, a number of other municipalities have some detailed reports out there as well as some law firms. So they're starting to come out as council schedules are meeting to discuss these things. And finally, I would just note that the province has only provided 30 days notice for municipalities to provide comments, so we will miss that deadline just because of our council scheduling and timing. And there's been some thought that perhaps that indicates that the council, or that the province is hoping to have a quick turnaround, and that these things will actually be in place in the springtime, shortly after the closing of the meeting, the deadline. So I'll leave it with that, but happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Councillor Pelkman and Councillor Brennan.
So the last time that I remember rules changing like this was with the deregulation of electricity. And it cost municipalities millions of dollars as the municipalities set up their systems for sale and incurred debt that they didn't need to, and then the province would change the rules, and all the work that they did was basically thrown in the trash, and they had to start over. In this case, back then the customer, that was all background noise, and they didn't really notice a difference. Their light turned on still when they flipped the switch. However, in this case, these rules will directly affect the people who live in the community. And maybe if you could, because probably a lot of people here have never watched the meeting, let's take the townhouse complex that was built right behind here.
Yep.
And how would the new rules have affected the neighbors if that proposal was to come forward today? That's a pretty complex question.
Actually, that is a good example, because that one actually, could actually highlight how the various changes have impacted development as well.
Yes.
But to back up, the first and foremost, I think, thing that's important is that the province is considering eliminating third-party appeal rights. So for residents who have concerns, or developers who have concerns about a decision of the municipality or of their neighbor, the province is thinking of removing appeal rights. So they've already removed them for minor variances and severances, but now they're extending that potentially to rezonings and official plans. And they've actually removed it for plans of subdivision already.
So effectively, for the public, that means too bad, so sad.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I will say, though, that the province has tried to implement that spring last year, issued a draft, and then they pulled it back and said, no, we're not going to do it. So it's interesting to us, all of us planners, that they're trying to do this again. And it was pushed back as much by developers as what it was citizen groups and private individuals, because developers certainly have an interest in decisions that municipalities make, right? So if they don't like the direction that a municipality makes with respect to its official plan, developers had and maintained those rights to appeal. But developers will lose that right too. So it's pretty consequential, potentially.
Okay. Thanks.
Maybe just a quick follow-up question. And with the provincial policy statement, do we have an option to say, we don't like that, we're going to do our own thing?
So
you can try it.
The provincial policy statement really does identify that intensification, redevelopment within a settlement boundary, its prime directive is that's ideally where development happens. Previously, under the old PPS, is the driver's seat for municipal expansions was left with municipalities, because the only time you could expand a boundary is really by a municipality initiating the project to consider these things. The province is proposing to change that and allow private individuals to make those decisions and make those applications outside of a municipal initiated project, and as well has potentially loosened the criteria that municipalities have to evaluate those settlement expansion requests. So there are potential consequences to that. What is likely to see is we'll get a lot more one-off applications by a developer or landowner who wants their land in the boundary, and will have less ability to say no to that under the proposed policies. But of course, as lands get added to the boundary, we have an obligation to service them, which then has a consequence on development charges, taxation, infrastructure requirements that we would then be compelled to provide.
Okay. Councilor Brennan, did you have your hand up? I'm trying to remember.
I did, and Councillor Pelkman's covered it quite well, and so has Director Huff. I guess my comment and my question would be is that I sympathize with staff because effectively, this is editorial, but there's been a bit of chaos over the last 2 or 3 years, largely produced by the provincial government doing trial balloons on a variety of different pieces of legislation to see what's going to work and maybe what people won't scream about. But I guess I see here that maybe some of the funding sources or the financial penalties that existed before have been somewhat modified. In terms of running your department, will this reduce the amount, will this give back, I guess, some of the financial advantages that we had before? Because it seemed before that we were going to be subject to penalties and we were going to be losing revenue. Has that been restored to the level it was before this whole spate of regulations came in?
Through the chair to Councillor Brennan, so what you're referring to is the requirement for us to refund fees if we didn't meet certain timeline requirements. So they are proposing to pull that requirement that we refund fees back, so we wouldn't have to refund, which is great. I can tell you that we're still working very hard to meet those timelines, whether or not we have a refund to give out or not. So we've really organize the department in a way to make us more responsive and meet those timelines as best we can, and really put a lot of focus on pre-consultation so everybody knows up front the requirements for an application.
Can I say one follow-up?
Yep, follow-up, then Councillor Wilsey.
Just ask for your professional opinion. Would you say that this all represents a shift away from local control towards a more centralized approach from the provincial government, and effectively what we're seeing here is many of the levers that we had locally to control growth are being taken away, and the province is just substituting other things which will fast track items no matter what local municipalities and local ratepayers want?
Through the chair, I do believe it certainly reflects the province's desire for housing to come on as quickly and for them to remove the hurdles that they believe to be existing in municipalities. Whether or not they actually do, subject to debate, but it's certainly what they perceive as hurdles.
Okay, thank you. Kent, did you?
Actually, she just answered my question.
Okay, sorry. Councillor Wilsey.
Through the chair to Director Huff, the last one that you have was the draft transition policies that directs planning authority's decision to be consistent with the 2024 PPS, even if the local county plans, and that paragraph there. How is that going to affect the updates to the zoning and bylaws that we're doing now? If this is coming through and changing them, should we wait until this is through before we do that? Because it sounds like by reading this, our official plan and some of the zoning bylaws might not matter and might have to change again.
Through the chair to Councillor Wilsey. So I don't have a great answer for you at this point, because until I know what the policies are, and because of the tendency to draft and then change and then reissue them, until those policies are in place, not until those policies are actually in place will staff evaluate if there's any consequences to our official plan or the zoning bylaw. We've already prepared to slightly amend our zoning update project to reflect some of these changes, but we want to wait until we know exactly what the province is going to impose on us before we make those decisions, because I certainly don't want to do another back and forth, putting things on hold only to find out that they went back to the policies that were existing before.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Director. Go to 8.2.3, Adelaide Road Servicing Exemption Request. Motion to receive the report first. Councillor Pelkman, second by Councillor Hippel. All in favor? Carried. We speak to the report, Councillor Hunt. Director Hunt.
Oh boy.
Sorry, the motion.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So you'll recall that this report is in response to a matter that came before Council at last Council meeting, and it's regarding a request for an exemption to our sewer bylaw and servicing standards in respect to a property on Adelaide Road, 22566 Adelaide Road. So by way of background, this property was subject to a severance application. It was for an infill development to create a new vacant lot for residential development. And as a condition of that approval, they required to independently service both lots to make sure that both were individually connected to water and sanitary, and that those connections didn't cross each other. The conditions were in place, and it wasn't until, my understanding is that when the applicants got a quote for the work, did they realize the cost of those independent service connections, that they then approached staff about the possibility of using a Y connection, because it would be considered a cheaper way to provide servicing to both those lots. And so just to be clear, staff fully supports infill development in Mount Bridges on full services. That's exactly the type of development that we want and what the province is directing us to do. It really just comes down to the way that this is being achieved and the cost. So when staff were approached about the potential Y connection, staff obviously advised that this was contrary to the sewer bylaw as well as the servicing standards, and that the exemption could not be provided administratively. It would have to go to council as a request. So that's where the request originated from. And then in the report, what I've done is I've provided a number of technical comments with the assistance. Primarily, please don't consider me an expert on this, but Paul Zuberbuehler and Jake DeRitter were really crucial in this report, providing me with the information that I needed from a technical standpoint on why we don't allow Y connections in the first place. And so you see some of the details, and I think Councillor Palkman also noted his personal experience with potential clogging and then the impacts that they have on residents. So literally a Y on the property, and if one of the Y comes to be clogged, it potentially can cause a backup depending on where that clog is, and the elevations of the basements on either side kind of depends on who really gets impacted potentially by the clog. And so this is something that is common, that a number of other municipalities don't allow these. With the updated standards that we have, we don't allow these as well. It would really require permanent easements and be registered on title if this were to go through. But we caution that oftentimes with these agreements registered on title, homeowners, even though they might be the homeowner that agreed to it, they might not be really fully aware of the consequences. And certainly future landowners often aren't aware of the consequences of these things. And then typically the municipality gets asked to rectify the solution. As well, I would just note that there was a question about when the servicing along Adelaide was put in place, because potentially there could just be a requirement that the homeowners be obliged through an agreement to connect when we update servicing along Adelaide Road. However, services were installed on Adelaide Road not too long ago, so it could be 50 plus years before that road is actually dug up and infrastructure replaced. And I'm not sure how I would remember in 50 years that homeowner needed to connect, or how I would pass that information on. And I'd also make the point that Mount Bridges sits on a high groundwater table. This situation is going to happen, these costs are going to happen for, I would say, the majority of the infill development that we see in Mount Bridges. And honestly, a Y connection is a cheaper way to connect anywhere, just because you dig one less time. So that it will always be financially more feasible, but it doesn't necessarily make the most sense from a potential impact to both the homeowner and the municipality. Sorry, I just want to make sure I get across the other things. And just to get across that really if the Y connection is permitted by the council, two things would need to happen. The applicants would have to go back to the Committee of Adjustment and request permission to change the conditions. They'd also require an easement, and a decision of council is not to be seen as a directive to the committee. They still have to make an independent decision on whether or not they believe that it's appropriate for this, for the non-standard connection. And of course, going back to the easements, really there has to be reciprocal easements across both. And so we've outlined in the report that there's two options. Option one is that council doesn't approve the exemption request. Option two is that you do approve. Staff is making the recommendation that this exemption is not be approved. I will also say, these exemption requests, as we receive more and more of them, it's harder and harder for staff to consult with developers and identify these are the standards and have comfort that these are the standards that, or for the developer to understand that these are the standards that they're to be held against. And so there's concern about the precedent being set not only for a particular use of wide connections to provide servicing connections, but also just for the precedent of servicing standards to continue to be considered for exemption.
Okay.
So I'll leave it there. Happy to answer any questions though.
Any questions? Deputy Mayor.
Not so much a question, but a comment. I appreciate the report. It's well written. I agree with staff. I'm not in favor of wide connections and easements across other people's property. I know this has happened before in the municipality and it never turns out well, so.
Any other questions? Councilor Brennan? And just a reminder to council, someone will need to make a motion with an option, then we'll vote from there, so.
I was going to make the recommendation, move that we move option one, no exemption, and I'd be looking for a seconder to get it on the floor.
Deputy Mayor, any other questions, comments? Councilor
Comment
Brennan.
would be, I think Councillor Pelton would also agree, over the time we've been on council, we've seen this before. And the short-term gain usually almost leads to long-term pain. And even though something is cheaper and less expensive to do, it's going to result in a lot of problems down the road that people other than ourselves are going to have to deal with 30 and 40 and 50 years from now. And it all gets just lost.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Councilor Hippel.
Through yourself, just to comment, I read through it and I get it, and these things always turn into, it can end up being a nightmare for everyone around them, but I feel, I'm just gonna say, like, I feel for the owners, and this has been such a long, they've been working on this for so long, and we've always been saying, when are we gonna be able to, like, expand, like, when are they gonna have that chance that they can do this properly and do it right within the municipality, and they haven't been able to. And the whole entire time that I've been on council, which is super long, they've been asking and working away, and actually I think even before I was on council. So I feel for them, and I guess my hope is if we don't approve this, if we go with option one, that there is a way that they can work, keep in close contact with yourself or work with us, the staff, and see how they can move forward, because like it's a tough situation for them, and I know they're not the only ones in our municipality that are going through these types of problems, but I hope that they can work with us in a positive, and we can be supportive to them. I guess that's all I want to say.
Any other comments? Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. So through you, Your Worship, I think what you're asking to have happen, happened.
I know.
It's come up, it's gone to Committee of Adjustment, there were conditions put in place, satisfy the conditions, and they get to develop the property. The reality is sometimes the requirements of developing property and the cost of developing property outweighs the benefit of developing property. That's just an economic problem. But I'll just leave that there. It's already happened.
Okay. Any other comments? Yep. If not, we have a second motion that council choose option one in regards to the request for an exemption of the servicing standards and bylaws. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Next is our community improvement application, spring 2024. Motion to receive the report. Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Palmer. All in favor? Carried. Were there any, we do have 3 in front of us that we need to approve. Did anyone have any specific questions on either one of those? Okay. Seeing none, so we'll do this in a blanket. The council approved Nicholas and Diane Forget's application. Council approved Alicia and Michael Leisner's application. The council approved Dale Ross, Rue Terpstra, Steve Boucher, and Melissa Boucher's application. Motion to approve those. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Pelkman. All in favor? Carried. Second, a motion that bylaw number 4424, bylaw number 4524, and bylaw number 4624 be referred to the consideration of bylaws section of the agenda for approval. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Hippel. All in favor? Carried. Next is the Community Improvement Plan Program Annual Update. Motion to receive the report first. Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? And you wish to speak to Director Huff?
Thank you. So at this point, I just want to say, number one, thank you very much to Eva Baker, who works in my department, who is the go-to person who talks to everybody and helps everyone make a CIP application, as well as doing up these annual reports and the reports for consideration for approval of the actual applications. So what I wanted to do is just provide an annual update from 2023. There's also some stats since we first updated the program from 2021 onwards about the things that we're doing for CIP. So it talks about the number of consultations that we're having, and I can say that number is, the word seems to be out right now, so we have quite a lot of consultations going on. It's noted that a number of those consultations continue to go on, so it just hasn't actually come to an actual point of application. And other ones that are inquiring, unfortunately, they don't meet the core criteria. In total, we have had 11 applications received in 2023, and the majority of those relate to the creation of additional units and beautification programs. Additional units is really great to see, and we did include just an approval of another one tonight. And so people are using these primarily for secondary suites in their homes or units above commercial spaces that were just undeveloped. So it's bringing new homes to our residential and to our downtown areas, which is great to see. And so in total, since 2021, we have issued out about $700,000 to projects, and that has been used to leverage over $25 million of investment through various projects in our municipality. So I think that's a really good highlight for how useful some of these projects and these funding programs can be in a municipality, and I'm hoping that we'll have even more take-up in 2024 and on.
Any questions? I just had one, and not to play to the audience, but I've had this one for a while. How's the response from Mount Bridges? Because we have business in that at Mount Bridges.
Yep.
Are you getting applications from Mount Bridges, and if not, B, are they aware of the program?
So I don't have the details,
Yeah,
but certainly I know that Eva takes a number of calls from all over the municipality, because actually some of our programs are even for rural businesses. So we have proponents who are working on applications both in the rural area and Mount Bridges now. And so we purposely wanted to have a suite of programs that could be available for anyone in the municipality. So we're getting the calls. We're hopeful that we'll get a couple good projects in Mount Bridges this year, if not next year.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. None. 8.2.6, pre-servicing agreement, the Westdale subdivision in Mount Bridges. Motion to receive the report. Councillor Kennis, secondly Deputy Mayor. All in favor? Carried. You want to speak to it? We'll just take a little recess here, not sure when. Yep, well. Just count, I think. Yep, it's fine. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is detailing the fact that the municipality has been working with the developer, Westdale, to come to the point in the process where we are able to potentially enter a pre-servicing agreement for works. So this is for works that would be internal to the site, so they would be offline works. It would be putting the infrastructure, the water, the sanitary, and dewatering the storms, etc., constructing the pond, while we complete the final details of a plan of subdivision application. So Westdale, that's located at north of Park House Drive, east of Ruffin Road. It's 83 new single detached dwellings. This is a development that was that started, I'm going to say, back in 2015, 2016, and approved back in 2018. There's been a variety of technical matters that they've had to work out and complete as part of the conditions of draft plan approval. And I will note that we're in the final stages of the actual subdivision agreement itself as well. And so that is in their hands and subject to their review, and we're just waiting to hear back from them. I'd also note that the pre-servicing agreement does include a financial contribution from ourselves to the developer, and that's relating to the stormwater that will shed off of Park House Drive when it is finalized, and a portion of that water sheds into their pond, so that's our contribution to the pond to reflect that water. And as well, we receive security at the pre-servicing stage to cover the cost of installation of all of the services within their boundary. And we keep that until we get the appropriate engineering reviews done, that all of that installation was done satisfactory. Just in terms of timing, I would also say before these, before the development comes online, it needs to be connected to sanitary and water, which requires the municipality to complete the Park House project. And so they've always had a preference that they wish to get their services in first, and then we do the Park House Drive, extend the services, and it won't be until those services have been extended through the Park House Drive project that their development would be online. So there is a provision to allow for model homes, but it's with a clear understanding that those model homes are not to be occupied. There's agreements in place to ensure that that doesn't happen. And finally, I would note that at the time of writing the report, there was outstanding invoices relating to engineering, legal, and peer review matters to approximately $75,000. I will say that we received a copy of the check that was put in FedEx on Friday to pay for most of the outstanding fees, save for some late charges. I don't know, and I haven't had a chance to ask Bill if we've received that or not, but that's where those outstanding funds are. So it appears that they're prepared to pay for them. And I will say as well that you know, there's certainly plenty of opportunity to ensure payment through this process, but also the plan of subdivision process as well, prior to the plan of subdivision. So at this point, I'll leave it there and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? From Councilor Kennis and Councilor Brennan.
The security that they, in the draft agreement, $6 million, they'll provide a letter of credit, a bank letter of credit to
Yes.
take care of them. Okay.
Yep.
Councilor Brennan.
As far as the stormwater, this is through the chair to the director, the stormwater management facility, our payment of $384,920.29. About what percentage of the total cost of the stormwater management facility does that represent? what share are we paying? A quarter, half, 3/4? I just don't know what the whole cost of the project would be.
Through the chair to Council Brennan, unfortunately, I don't have that number. It's a small number.
Yeah, I think
So
it's-
I think it's less than 20%, but unfortunately, I don't have.
Yeah, my
I don't
apologies
have
for
that
not having,
number.
but I figured, if memory serves, I think we were around like 20-25%. I just want people to understand that we're paying a minor share.
Yes.
And the vast majority of it is being paid by the developer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Peltman.
Yeah, so not necessarily that it has to do with this piece of the puzzle, but certainly them starting work, places Park House on a high priority list to get completed. And my question is then, has that already been designed, so if they're placing their infrastructure in the ground first, they know at what depth it needs to be at?
Through the chair to Councilor Puckman, yes, it has. So we're in the, basically the tender package is almost ready to go, except for the fact that we don't have dewatering. And we can't have dewatering until Westell finishes there. So we can't get the dewatering permit itself to attach to the tender until they're completed ours. So everything else has been coordinated in terms of the design of the streets, the elevations, all of that.
Yep, Councillor Peltman.
And do we have a time frame then on when their dewatering will finish so that we can make application for ours?
Through the chair to Councilor Peltman, so we will have a draft application ready to go when Westell completes their application. And so this is being done in a coordinated manner so that each phase's dewatering application gets submitted after the results of the previous phase's dewatering is available, so that the ministry understands that the information for dewatering, it's all based on the same base information, but it will be important to understand how the dewatering worked in Westell, and in order for us to submit our application. So there is going to be a lag time, and so we're hopeful that Park House will start this fall. It could be a little bit delayed depending on how long dewatering takes for Westell.
Okay, yeah, one more, Councillor Peltman.
I did. And how many planning applications are currently based off of Park House having surfacing completed? Is it 3?
3, yeah.
Yeah. So none of them can go until Park House is?
Correct.
Okay.
4 if you include this one.
Councillor Wilsey.
I've got 2 questions. Just going back from previous meetings, I thought there was something with the dewatering where they had to get approval from the farmer who owned the pond downstream. Just didn't know if we're aware if that's happened or not. And the second one is that the report mentions that there will be numbers from RV Anderson stating the capacity and what's available, and that is not included with this report. So when will we see that? Because it's mentioned in your report that it's attached, but it's not there.
Yep, please.
Sorry, to the chair, to your first question.
Yeah.
So Westell has advised that they have an agreement, and we'll get copied of the agreement as soon as the pre-servicing agreement is executed. And there's conditions in the pre-servicing agreement that they can't actually start to service until they have that we have a copy of that agreement. So we have tied that up, and I apologize, that was a typo. It's not, so it references the servicing master plan, that those numbers would be part of that master plan.
Yep. Yep. Councillor Derbyshire.
Oh, go ahead. You have
Oh,
a
sorry, I didn't
follow-up.
see your hand there. Yep,
No, you
said
had a
yeah.
follow-up.
Yep.
I think we're probably going to ask a similar question. If we don't know if there's capacity with all the issues we're having with the wastewater treatment plant and the interim solution we have to have put in, and everything that's going on, the failures we've had over the last year, I think before we approve any more developments, we should know what the capacity is, what we're currently at, and that we can service this. I'm just afraid that what's going to happen is we're going to have to end up pausing this partway through and have people upset that we approve something when, if we don't have that extra capacity, if this study comes back and says we need to build a new plant before we can do anything.
Okay, that's good, fair comment. Was yours gonna, Councillor Derbyshire?
I was, that is one of it too. I was through you. It does say in this condition that the municipality can waive that they have a signed agreement with the Sudermans.
Yes.
So we can waive that without, that is part of the agreement. And I was gonna say at the bottom there, I did read that it says that they take all the risk knowing that building this subdivision, we might not have capacity in our sewer plant. So, are we being upfront and honest? I'm just asking a question because I wanna be doing fair business. Are they under the impression, which it says in the first thing, that we have capacity for them? Whereas RV Anderson said at our last meeting that that plant's running at 30 to 40% and will never get to capacity without going to open aeration. So, I'm not trying to be a jerk, I just don't wanna put us in a situation where they come back and say, your guy said, you're never gonna hit it, you promised us in 2018, we had pre-approval, that we had capacity and now we don't, and now look at where we're at. I know there is a line at the end of this thing that says, if there isn't capacity, they're out. But if we aren't telling them that our plan is not functioning to the capacity that allows them to be in on it, maybe they don't want to be doing a whole bunch of this stuff.
I'm just gonna defer, the CAO wants to jump in, Councilor Derbyshire.
Sure.
So, CAO?
So we know based on the effluent modeling now that we're at 50% for what the capacity is, but we know that that 50% is contingent on the interim solution and the medium-term solution as well. So while we are at 50% capacity, approximately 50% capacity for effluent through the treatment plant, we know that we need to improve that site, and that is contingent on the as I said, the short term, which is sort of the holding tank, which has been approved by council, and then the medium term, changing from RBC to aeration. Thank you, aeration.
Okay, go ahead,
Can I just
Councilor.
follow up on that?
Yep, go ahead.
So the interim solution doesn't increase capacity, that's not what we were told. We were told it will work, but it didn't say it was gonna increase capacity.
No, the capacity is rated at
Right.
850,
But he didn't say we would get any better than where we're at. All this would do was just help with flow.
That's correct.
The other thing is, we're not approved and haven't applied to move forward with open aeration.
No, that's correct. We have
Right, so we're years, like, I just don't wanna be putting ourselves in a situation where somebody can come back on us because we're following a consultant's lead on where we're at.
That's a fair comment, fair comment. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Councilor Palmer.
How much capacity, if we're at 50%, putting this subdivision online and everything else that we have coming down the pipe, are we talking about increasing our capacity to 60%? Or are we talking about increasing the capacity to 95%? I don't have a reference for how, when you add stuff on, how many houses when you add on puts us up a percentage, so to speak. Do you understand my question?
That's where your master, that's what the master plan's gonna answer, which is what
I
you would
don't
like
know-
to see before.
I don't know if you're prepared to answer that question. I know, Manager, are you?
So I don't have those numbers in front of me, but Councillor Derbyshire is correct. The master servicing plan is going to provide all of that breakdown in detail for you. We are looking at RV Anderson coming in June with some information on the master servicing plan.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Palkman. I do.
Yeah, so in my head, I'm just playing out the timelines here, and, so obviously, there are 4 developments tied up in this situation, none of which can move forward until Park House is completed. They're all within the current urban boundary, so we have an obligation to service them or provide capacity for them since they're already within the urban boundary. And my own, and I'm just gonna speak for myself here, is, well, yes, we have an interim solution that's been approved. Doesn't mean that we can sit back and go, oh, we're good for a couple of years now. The work starts right away on getting the approval in to switch to open aeration. And if I'm just listening to your answers, there's a couple of years here where we're gonna be
Fine.
working on stuff.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Councilor Richardson.
I will just say to that, that all should have been done. Like, this process of switching to open aeration should have been started and moving if that was the plan. The problem is you're gonna do an interim solution that you now have to apply to the ministry to, if you're making a bigger footprint, we're going to have to do a Schedule B or C to do this process. Like, there's more to this than just meets the eye, which is what we had said, can we please try to see if we can fix these things until you have your ducks in a row to move over to whatever system you wanna move to.
Okay, any other, Councilor Hippel?
Through yourself, 2 questions. So, the first one would be, well, just because I was on the same page as Councillor Kammer, should we be giving approval on a project that we don't have the master plan, the servicing master plan? Should those 2 things not be coordinated at the same time, so we at least have the numbers, that we understand where the numbers are? And then the second part of that is, what if we sit here and say, okay, you know what, we're not sure that this is possible, because we're not sure that the wastewater treatment plant it can function properly and service properly. So if we were to say no to this and defer it, are we in trouble? Like this, I also want to know, are we in trouble one way or are we in trouble another way? I don't, where are we going here? So when you bring us this report, and it's a very good report, so don't take that the wrong way. If we don't move forward, what happens? Are we liable for anything? Does that make sense?
Correct,
Yep.
I understand the question, I think it's a fair question too, so.
Yeah, through the chair to Councilor Hippel. So, the age of the treatment facility came online in about 2012. So I think it's fair to say that consultations started within 2 or 3 years of that plant coming online with most of the developers that are now coming forward with applications before us today. We have had an approval in place for this application since 2018. And other approvals for next door as well for some time now. And so, that reflected at the time, we had a brand new treatment facility. I was not certainly aware of any concerns, right? And that's what the draft plan approval reflects. And so from a process requirement, you have your draft plan conditions. The municipality has issued them to the developer. The developer is obliged to meet all of those. And the last step is agreements. So, certainly there would be consequences, I think. And I wouldn't want to speak to details
No.
at this point in time, but yes, there would be, I'm sure.
I'm
It's
going
not
to
just
defer to
this
Councillor Kennis, but I asked Councillor Derbyshire a question on that last line you read where it says there's an out clause, or the last line you read where they understand, right? Could you read that line again for me, Councillor?
Oh, it's back in it's in the agreement.
But there is an actual line that says they take some risk, right?
It does say that they essentially.
211.2.
Okay, now I need to understand.
Yeah, it's not been extended along Park House to the lands, it's 11.221. Yeah, there it is. The subdivider accepts and assumes all risks of municipal service not being available to the lands or to the municipality service capacity, including the Mount Bridges wastewater treatment facility, not being available to the lands.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
What section is that?
It's in this agreement, it's 211.23. So I mean, they should read that, they should see that, that obviously that's what it says.
They're taking the risk.
But my question is, we know the motor's bad. Do they know? Are we selling them a lemon?
Got it,
So can they come back with a lemon clause?
got it. Okay, all right, go Councilor Cass.
I'm making the motion that we move forward with this pre-servicing agreement. This has been in the hopper for a long, long time, and we've been waiting for progress here, and, there's lots of stuff going on, but we keep going in circles on this thing, so I want to move forward.
Okay, you have a seconder for your motion. Councilor Brennan, any further questions? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you, Director. Next is engineering and public reports. I believe that'll be Walter. First up is the hard surface road recommendations. Motion to receive the report. Councilor Brennan, seconded by Councilor Kennis. All in favor? Carried. I think the report's pretty straightforward. Any councilors have any questions of Manager Easter? Councilor Palmer.
Could you just review for me, again, Director, PCI? I see here we have, first of all, what it stands for.
Okay.
And then secondly, if, there's a rating, so the first one is Amiens Road, a PCI is 75. Is that 75 out of 100? Is that good? Is that bad? Like, could you just share how the scale works a little bit?
So it's pavement condition index.
Thank you.
Sorry, through the chair too. It's pavement condition index. We did it in 2021. It was a county-driven kind of plan that lower tiers jumped on to do. It is just a score, so it is 75 out of 100. 75 is getting to the point. 70 is getting to the point of to resurface. Based on the PCI and visual inspections, Amiens Road for that stretch, it's hog troughed. There's wheel ruts. So we take that with a grain of salt. We do the visual inspections, and then based on that, I talk a lot about the double application treatment in this report. That's where you're going to pulverize the existing tar and chip, put down a base layer of 3/8 chip, then you have to do a top layer of 1/4 inch. So, not to get into too much technical detail, but the goal is to always just resurface. That's how you maintain your roads. You want to stay on the 5 to 7 year path. We have 150 kilometers of tar and chip road. The funding we get each year sometimes doesn't cover that. We're putting ourselves in a position where we're doing double application year after year. So I tried to get that through in the report, so hopefully that answers your question about the pavement condition.
Any other questions? Councilor Woolsey.
Just looking at the hard ones for asphalt, I see these are all in Strathroy. Have we looked at, I know we can't do the ones in Mount Bridges because we're looking at putting sewers and infrastructure, and all the ones that just got sewers were done in the last few years, so they're probably okay. But in Melbourne, they've got a lot of roads that are hard surface that are in pretty bad condition. The shoulders are falling off, they're not wide enough. I don't know when we've done a road in Melbourne that wasn't a county road. So I'm just wondering if we can do some that aren't in Strathroy for the hard, because I think we're doing a lot of work in Strathroy. We've done very little in any of the outlying communities.
Yep. Yeah, that's a valid point. We have a road need study it actually closed for tender today. They're going to evaluate all our roads more in depth. I think that'd be a good time for them to do Melbourne and give us a true rating of the deterioration and the road recommendations that they have for that. As you can see, it didn't make the list this year, but moving forward, it's something we can definitely consider.
Okay. Councilor Pelkman.
Yeah, I'll just vocalize my support for Westgate. I did have a resident complaint because I questioned why Westgate would be on there before. And I had a resident call me, and so I took my scooter out because I figured that's a better way to assess the road than in a car. And I started thinking about kids riding on the street because there's no sidewalks down there. So if they're riding their bicycles, the pavement is in bad condition. and it needs to be redone, so I've definitely changed my opinion on that street.
Okay. Any other, Councillor Hippel?
Through your, again, this is just a comment through yourself, but I thank you for the walker's drive from Sutherland to McAvoy, because that is one busy road, and it is beat up something fierce. And as a municipality get bigger, and I know that's in a rural area, it is an extremely busy road to get from Melbourne, sometimes all the way to McAvoy, and then they scooch around to get to Amiens, but it's getting busier every day. So when I saw that, I was pretty pleased, and so were the residents. I got 5 emails saying woohoo, so thank you. That's amazing.
Any other questions? Councillor Derbyshire?
I just kind of more of a comment and maybe a question. I don't know if this is something we can work with Middlesex Center on, but when you look at that Glengyle to Skinner Drive, it's got 2,000, almost 2,100 cars in this 24-hour period. Like, that's something. I mean, you can put asphalt or chip and tar down there, but with that volume that's going down there at this point, I don't know whether it shouldn't become actually asphalt, as it is kind of the quick way into London now. Whether that's something, I know we split that road with Middlesex Center, normally they do, or, yeah, is it Middlesex? Yeah.
Yes. So through the chair, so we maintain the north half, so
Okay.
that would be all
That's
our
our
costs.
problem.
So last year they did the south half of Amiens, which kind of prompted us to inspect our half. So asphalt's an option. There are a lot of vehicles on that road. There is a substantial difference in price, for sure. So for 2.5 kilometers, I believe that stretch is, there'd be a substantial cost there for asphalt, so I just share that with council.
Like from Glengyle to Skinner Drive. Isn't that that's like a...
I just want to make sure. That's where you have the 2,100 cars?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like half a kilometer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Yeah, the whole stretch is 6.5, so they're broken down evenly, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just down through the dip, it comes off at the end of, it's kind of one of those things. I mean, we can go and do this, I just think we'll be back doing this with that number. And even, there's no restrictions, no this, that, but it's totally, it's up to council.
Any other questions? Councillor Kenneth?
Just on that, I may have asked this before, but what's the process to ask that something be turned into a county road? Because if this is carrying a lot of traffic through multiple municipalities, how do you have it considered as being turned into a county road sometime in the future? Because I agree, I mean, that's a new way to go to London, so.
Do you have that answer?
Yeah, so through the chair, the county does an assessment of what roads they'd like to take over. That one's not one of them, I'll be honest, but.
You can show him a bit.
Yeah, so they do an assessment of lower tier municipal roads, and,
They tell us.
All right, Councillor Wilsey?
Just a follow-up to that, I had thought previously that if the county were to take over a road, they would upgrade it and charge us and then increase our levy, so that we'd actually end up paying more, is what I believe I was told previously from the director. So that if a road's taken over by the county, we still have to pay to upgrade it to get to standards, and then they increase our levy. So I don't know if there's actually really much benefit, except for the fact we lose control over it. It's just a question.
Yeah, I'm scratching my head on that one. I don't know if you may have heard it. Director Dakin, could you help and answer that? If a county assumes a road, does it impact our levy?
Through the chair to Councilor Wilsey, I would say indirectly, from the standpoint of now the county has more roads to.
Right.
So they're gonna increase their need to maintain those roads. So it's coming off our books, but going on their books, so.
Right, so indirect cost.
They still have to do all of that work, so I would say indirectly, yes.
Right. Okay, all right, folks.
I can get a definite answer
Okay.
from the.
All right, so we have 2 motions in front of us. The council directs staff to proceed with tendering the 2024 tar and chip program for Amiens Road, Walker's Drive, and Parkhouse Drive. And further, the council directs staff to proceed with tendering the 2024 asphalt program for Westgate Ave, Park Street, and Lemoore Crescent. Someone to bring a motion. Councillor Hippel, second by Councillor Palmer. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Next is the Queen Street Reconstruction Project, Phase 2 update. Motion to receive the report first. Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Carried. Do you want to speak to this one, please, Walter?
Yeah, so through the chair to council, this report is to update council on the second phase of Queen Street. As you're aware, we did phase 1 last year, which was the tracks to Carroll to the south. I do want to point out one error in the report in the financial section. The recommendation's correct about 3.3 being approved, but if you read the sentence in the financial spot, it says 3.275. That should say 3.3. And the anticipated cost is for 2024 should read $3,775,000. So I just wanted to point that out there. The final design was received in the middle of April. This included an updated cost estimate for us. With the outlet location being to the Sinningham River, the project, it's directly impacted by the DFO restrictions of March 15th to July 15th. That's their in-water working window where you're not allowed to work there for fish habitat. Along with the complexity of the project at the railway, this in-water restriction, the start date was essentially pushed back for this project, and it's turned into a multi-year project. It's common, like just to kind of build on that, it's common in construction practice to start at the outlet so that if there's ever unforeseen water in your trench during construction, you always have somewhere for the water to go. You're not working uphill, or you're working uphill so that you can drain your water. So that's kind of why you need to start at the river. So just want to make that clear. And then as part of the 2024 work, it's anticipated that to complete the head wall works at the river, construction of the storm sewer through the proposed easement at 157 front, the full reconstruction of Arthur Street, and then depending on timing, the work across Metcalf may commence, but we have stipulations in the tender that's currently out that it must be hard surfaced, whatever they finish this year. We're not leaving anything in gravel, or everything has to be fully restored for what they do this year. So, which leaves for 2025 the rest of Queen Street to the tracks, and then obviously the CN work under the tracks. So that's kind of an overview of where we're at with that project. There's additional funds needed, as you guys can read in the financial implications. It's broke down, but I'll answer any questions.
Okay, questions? Questions? Yep, Councillor.
Is this added money to the project, or
Yeah.
okay, what is added money? Okay, right.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other? Councillor Pelkman.
I guess just the drainage area of sewage that would be coming down, or stormwater, extends how far to the south?
How far to the south? I would need the storm catchment areas in front of me from the design. Do you mean in phase, like including phase
Well,
1?
so we know that there's that large triangular piece of land on the south side of the tracks that has a portion of it's been developed, but I believe that.
On English? Are you talking about English?
No, I'm talking at the Queen and Carroll.
Okay. I'd have to look at the catchment areas for the sewer. It is anticipated that the design would cover the drainage areas for the surrounding areas, but I don't have the exact total.
Okay, Councillor Wilsey.
I've got just a clarification from me. I do have a couple follow-up questions afterwards. But when we were told earlier this year, I was under the assumption that we had to do this phase all of this year because we didn't have a drain for the phase 1 that we did last year. So now I'm a little bit confused why we can't build this middle part without a drain when we built the first part without a drain.
So there was, sorry through the chair.
Go ahead. Yeah.
You're correct. There is a push for this project. I can't speak to if it 100% was guaranteed to be done, but the Fieldcrest subdivision on the south part of phase 1 is now draining down English Street, which doesn't have capacity for this project. So the plan was the following year to complete the second phase, once we got into final design and determining all the work that had to be done, and specifically an outlet route, it turned into a multi-year project. But it is still important that we get this done to drain that Fieldcrest subdivision.
So there's a subdivision that was built that doesn't have drainage because we didn't have it, now we have to build the outlet for that drainage. That's essentially what it just.
That was kind of why I was asking. So my understanding is that there's a large stormwater management pond that has to be built on that triangular piece of property. And currently that water is just running off into the field. But that outlet goes down Queen Street. What I was really trying to wonder is how much property on the south side of Queen Street or Carroll Street is the sewage going to be running down Queen Street, or is it going to be running down Carroll Street?
It's gonna outlet down Queen Street.
Okay. But not for 2 years, because I'll build this and then we have to build the section in the middle after.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
that's the
And
timeline, right?
2025.
It's empty field right now.
Yeah, your follow-up, right?
Yeah, I had two more. The land acquisition cost, have we confirmed that we can buy that land? And that that's the cost for it? Because typically land purchases come back to council and I haven't seen that yet.
So that's scheduled for the May 21st meeting in a closed
Okay.
session.
So, but have we already talked to the landowner, we know that cost is good, or that cost can change?
We've been in discussions with them right now.
Okay. And then the last one, I'm just looking at the, and just so everybody knows, when I look at the 2025 budget, I see the money comes from water and wastewater, and then 1.3 million, and then the 1.98 million is a combination of OSIF and taxation. So my comment on that is when I look at the water and wastewater budget, we're already 6 million overspent in water and wastewater. And the OSIF is what we do for tar and chip and pavement. So when I look at the numbers and what's coming on, if we use this money from OSIF and water and wastewater, it's actually all gonna come from taxation, or we're not gonna do any tar and chip or asphalt next year. I just wanna make sure that that's known here, because that's how I read those numbers, based on what we've done in last year's budget. Is that correct?
Yep. Director Dakin, were you looking to?
I can, if you'd like.
Yes.
Through the chair to Councillor Wilsey, so OSIP money is used for any projects within the water, wastewater, and roads program. Currently, we have $2 million coming in this year. We're spending, I think it's $600,000 this year, just off the top of my head. So that leaves about 1.4 million unspent this year of the money coming in. Then we get another 2 next year. So in theory, you could take the full 2 million from next year and put it into all of this project and not use any taxation.
So, just look at those numbers, we're spending 1.2 million from OSIF that we just approved from the hard surfaces, so that doesn't line up, aren't we? Isn't that where the number's coming from the last one that we just passed? There's 700,000 and 575,000. And I looked at, where I got my numbers from was from the report you presented us a month and a half ago from the budget. And it showed there we only got 1.2 million in OSIF funding last year. So the numbers that you've, at this point, the numbers we've got that he's giving us don't line up with the reports we had before, so
I'm sure there's an answer.
I don't know what to say.
Okay, I'm sure there's an answer, Lisa. Any other questions? Councilor Derbyshire.
Sorry, I guess it's more kind of a comment that I think we approved this thing early so it could get out to tender. Right? Obviously, we approved it $3.3 million short to go to tender to a project that we're not even now gonna start till July. Right? Because we can't touch the water. We can't work on the back end of it. Like, it just feels like a lot of it gets shoved through, and now we're backtracking down this road again. And I know this isn't, it's not your problem. I just kind of speaking out loud to all of council, like, we understood this was a big project, we wanted to do it, and we wanted to get it done when it was presented. Now we sit here and it's like, first off, it's over budget by 3.3 million, and it's not starting until August. So we could have taken our time, figured out what it costs, done this right figured out where it's all coming from and made sure we had stuff done. Like it's frustrating to see something like this, in my honest opinion. And I'm not against the project, I approve the original project. I'm more frustrated with this kind of stuff, and I call it the horse before the cart, and we seem to do it a lot. That's a comment, I guess. It's just,
Okay, any other comments? Councillor Brennan.
I'll just make the motion that council approves the 3.3 for the Queen Street Road reconstruction project in the 2025 capital budget.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Canis. All in favor?
Can I ask one more question?
Yep, go ahead, sorry.
Just before we
Yep.
vote it, just want everyone to know it's not tendered yet, so when this comes back, and if it's under tendered again and it needs another 3 million, are we still willing to go forward with that? Just everyone keep that in mind, because it hasn't been tendered yet. We don't know what the project's coming back at. This is just based on the design. This isn't a tender. We're not starting anything. This is still just an estimate. So I guess my question on that, which class of estimate are we looking at? Because with buildings, there was different class of estimates. Is this a class estimate, or is this just one we've done internally?
This is the engineer cost estimate based on their final design.
Is it a class A then, so it should be close to the tender, similar to go out with the fire hall?
We anticipate to be close to the tender based on the engineer design.
Okay. Yep, Councillor Derbyshire.
sorry, just one more clarifying thing. So when you say we're gonna put hard surface all back down, that means we're gonna also rip up this hard surface we put down, or are we we're only gonna do the amount we can get done this year?
So if it's gonna, say they're close to the end of Arthur Street at the end of, say, middle of October, we'll make a cautious decision to cap everything, put the sidewalks down, put the base asphalt down, get the project almost like it's complete, and then, no, we will not be ripping that up.
Okay.
Okay, you have a second motion. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Next, we have the CAO report. This is the council strategic plan options for revised vision, mission, and value statements. Motion to receive the report first. Councillor Pammer, seconded by Councillor Hibbel. All in favor? Carried. So I guess the best way, 'cause there are a number in front of us, we could go through each one if we wanted, or we could ask, should know which each option that was recommended. Did any councillor have a question or an issue with any of the recommendations? We'll start with Councillor Pelkman, his hand's up.
So I guess I got a two-part
Yeah, that's good.
comment here. So my first is, I think this should be done in a workshop, not in open council. My second is, the way a number of these are worded, it's council's vision and mission and statement, not the organization's. And so I was kind of under the understanding that the way that this should read is it should be as applicable to me as it should be to the crossing guard. And that's not the way they're written. They're written as they're ours. And there are also some here, if I'm being honest, that I'm gonna say we're not living up to, and which would then make them very hollow to the rest of the organization. And if we're not prepared to live up to them ourselves, I have a hard time passing them.
Okay, any other, Councillor Wilsey?
I'm actually going to agree with Councillor Pelkman on this. I think those statements are all very aspirational. None of them are necessarily bad, but I don't believe there's any way we can live up to them. Or, and like you said, words matter. If we're going to vote these in as that, we either have to have direction to the CAO and staff to make sure that they're implemented by the end of our procedure, which we haven't done in our workshop. I don't want to add stuff to the scope of the strategic plan, but we haven't given direction and scope to change how they're doing to make sure these things are coming through, and we haven't budgeted anything for that. I think we should probably defer this back to the workshop and come up with something that's more applicable to our current state, or at least what we think we can achieve during the last 2 years of our term.
Any other Councillor Canis.
I'm fine with referring it to a workshop, although I kind of liked it. I gotta say, I kind of like the wording, and all of this stuff is aspirational, because we never reach perfection, and it's always a goal to move the place a step higher. But that being said, there's a lot of stuff here, there's a lot of different options. But I do kind of like a lot of the wording that's being suggested, but I agree, it probably should go to something where we can fight it out in a more, and at a time when there's more time available.
Okay, does someone want to bring a motion, because I'm in agreement? Councillor Pelkman, you bring a motion to refer?
Yes,
Okay.
to when, I don't know, but.
We'll consult with this.
Workshop.
You need a second,
In a
Councillor
workshop
Wilsey?
format.
Okay, all in favor of referring? Carried. Next is the Lake Huron Water Supply System update. Motion to receive the report first.
Sorry, Chair, can we confirm who seconded that motion?
Councillor Wilsey.
Thank you, Chair.
Motion to receive the report of the Lake Huron Water Supply. Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Hippel. All in favor, carried. CAO, did you wish to speak to this?
Yes, please. Through the chair to council. So this is probably the first time that this term of council is seeing this information. So from what I can tell, the last piece of staff report that came forward was in April of 2022. And the report just gives some background information about the Lake Huron water supply system and the Elgin area water supply system, how it was constructed and how it was formally owned. And it was owned by the province until 2020, and then the Minister of the Environment created a board of management and transferred the ownership to the benefiting municipalities. And there was a transfer order that implied that each the water systems were a body corporate. And what has sort of come out of this is that it didn't really state what legislation this corporate body was under the authority of. So what's happening right now, the Municipal Act establishes that the authority of a municipality to create a municipal service board or a municipal services corporation. And that's the conversation that's been underway regarding the Lake Huron water supply as to what that operating structure is going to look like. And so there really hasn't been, from what I can see, much conversation since that April 2022 report. But there's some conversations that are, there's sort of a steering committee with all of these sort of impacted municipalities. So there's a number of lower tiers that are involved in this. And we've had some recent conversations, the CAOs, of sort of getting together and sort of continuing to move this conversation forward. So what this report is seeking sort of council's approval to appoint the mayor and myself to the steering committee, and that has been historically, from what I can see, has been the previous structure and a similar structure in many of the other municipalities. Because these are some important joint meetings that are happening, and I certainly want to make sure that Strathroy-Caradoc is part of those conversations as we move forward.
Yeah. So I'm just going to jump in because I'm the representative on the Lake Huron water supply, and Greg's the backup alternate. I became aware of this about 6 months ago, so it has been ongoing. Previous mayor and CEO were part of the steering committee, and currently the mayors and the CEOs of our neighboring municipalities are on the steering committee. So any questions? So you have a motion, the council appoint the mayor and CIO to the steering committee reviewing the Lake Huron water supply system. Someone to bring the motion, Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Pelkman. All in favor? Carried. Next is the hiring process for director positions. Motion to receive the report. Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Carried. CEO, did you wish to speak to the report?
Yes, please. So in in preparation for this report, there's some information that I want to make sure that council is aware of. So within the Municipal Act, Section 270 states it requires that the municipality have a hiring policy. It doesn't stipulate what needs to be in that hiring policy, but it says that one is required. So looking through our policies, we have one here at the municipality that dates back to 2004. So I think that's the sort of most likely the original policy that was drafted. The policy is attached to the staff report so that you can see that. The policy, so the practices and the policy, there's some differences between current practice and what's in the policy. And so I think it's really important that we need to quickly look at this policy and bring back to council it for further discussion. Specifically, some of the, in the report I include some of the sections that we really need to have in a hiring policy, like outlining the recruitment processes, responsibility, nepotism, non-discrimination, some of the requirements that are in other pieces of legislation for hiring practices we need to ensure that are in our hiring policy. In regards to the recruitment for the Director of Engineering and Public Works, attached to the report is the job description for the position. Anytime that we have a vacancy, we do review the job description. And in this case, the Director of HR and myself reviewed, and we are looking to move forward with this position. I'd like to get the posting out like tomorrow. But I know that there were some questions that I heard from multiple members of council, and so you have the report before you. You have the hiring policy as well as the job description, and as you can see, the recommendation that is being put forward is that we bring back for discussion the hiring policy with the components that should be required in it to have that updated and approved by council.
Okay. Open the floor to question. Councillor Pell.
Yes, thank you very much, through the mayor to the CAO. So when I was reading the older policy, we didn't have an HR manager, and now we do. So does that pose a problem for, because I'm somewhat under the assumption we would all want our HR manager on that hiring committee. Does that pose a problem for moving forward with the director?
So within the current policy, it speaks to the selection panel, which will consist of the CAO and at least 2 other persons designated or approved by council. My recommendation is our Director of HR must be involved. That's why we have an HR department, and I think it's key that HR staff are involved in, they have to be involved in every hiring that occurs in the municipality. So yes, there are some concerns I do have with the current policy, and that we'll need to address that and get the policy updated and before council ASAP.
Okay. Councillor Hippel.
Just a comment through yourself to our CAO. I think I think we're going to find that there's lots of things that we're going to have to update, but definitely this is one that needs to be done. So I'm in complete agreement with this, that we should be moving forward and updating the hiring policy.
Okay. Any Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'll make some comments first that I'm one of the ones that have brought forward some concerns about the current open position and the fact that we are involved in a service review, I guess a service delivery review, I think is the words I'm looking for. So certainly the need to fill this position in some manner must be done quickly. I had actually prepared a motion that would have given us conversation around this, but I was glad to get a call from the CAO saying that she was bringing this forward because it puts it 2 weeks earlier, the conversation. So my motion has been stood down for the moment, but given the fact that we're doing the quality review, and I think that's really going to look at what the Director of Engineering job is and you know, just everything across the board within the municipality, makes it very difficult to determine exactly what that position is going to look like. So hiring could become very difficult right now because we're not really sure what it is we're going to be hiring. My motion would have called for the CAO to have presented some alternatives to making full-time employment right now. And that could have been hiring a consultant to act as a director, taking another director to look after the administrative type duties, and subsidizing that with a director or sorry, with a consultant or a hire by case T-Eng. You know, there's obviously a number of firms out there that could be contacted to assist, or other municipalities for that matter, but I didn't stipulate which. I just left that in the motion itself. So I think you know, that it needs to be done timely, but I am very cautious about hiring a permanent position when we're just entering a service delivery review, which I think the timeline has that back on our table in September. And then we'd be in a better position to fill one of our top positions in the municipality. So I would like to see this filled on an interim basis and do all the other work in the background as opposed to rushing through the whole process right now. I'll also point out that currently we're not following our own employment hiring bylaws. So as long as it's here, I think it needs to be followed until such time as we change it.
Councillor Wilsey, then Councillor Brennan.
Just on what the Deputy Mayor was saying, I'm reading the motions for this item. There's nothing about hiring a Director of Engineering. There's accepting the report for information and that we update the hiring policy. There's nothing in here about hiring an engineer.
I was gonna ask that question too, Greg. To unpack, there's two separate pieces in there, so we can bring whatever, we can, that's a recommendation. But we can bring we can bring a motion, please. But I was going to ask that question too, or two. Councillor Brennan.
My comments were similar to Councillor Wilsley, but just for the sake of discussion, to respond to the Deputy Mayor. I would like to see the position filled as quickly as possible with a permanent employee, given that we have the Queen Street project coming on very quickly, and also that this is the individual who's going to be helping us with our interim and permanent solutions out of the wastewater treatment plant. I mean, the wastewater treatment plant is probably one of our top priorities in terms of municipal infrastructure projects that we have to get right. And I would like to see our CAO, who we hired to be a CAO, be able to build a team that is able to address this top priority of council. And I would not want to do that with a consultant. I'd like to have our CAO put together the team that she thinks is going to be able to meet the challenges that we're facing, and the wastewater treatment plant's a big one. And I'd like to see someone hired for that position quickly who's going to be able to lead us through the projects that are going to make that place work. So just by way of comment. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Derbyshire, and then you're Deputy Mayor.
It's not that I'm opposed to hiring somebody. I don't think quickly is anything we should be doing anymore. That really and truly. It says here, this is the head of engineering, and having an engineering degree by the looks of it is an asset, not a requirement. So I just think when you're reviewing what they need to review, and in order for this person to sit in the room with the consultants that are engineers, I believe we're putting somebody at a disadvantage if they're not an engineer to be able to sit in there and talk as an equal around the table. Otherwise, they're no different than you or I sitting there. They don't really have a say in it because they're not actually an engineer. So that would be one thing I would think that we should change in this practice, is that our head of engineering who's gonna deal with that stuff have a basic, whatever, a basic engineering or a roundabout, whatever whatever we think we need, I don't think it should be an asset, I think it should be an actual requirement. That's just my opinion.
Okay, CAO.
So, as a director position, the sort of the key criteria for a director is actually the management skills, the management of the department, and management of people, practices, policies. Someone who, to exclude someone who has a 20-year career as a director in another municipality because they don't have that technical PNG, I think is actually really limiting what we can get for the municipality. And also, if we're looking to have an internal PNG, I would say it's not at the director level. It would be then a separate staff member, because we can't afford to have a director sit in an office just reviewing engineering drawings. That is not going to be the best use of that director position and what we need that position to be doing. The directors are managing the departments, the projects, the people, and an asset doesn't mean that it's off the table. So having a PNG is an asset, but if we say it's a requirement, we are really limiting and excluding someone who may have extensive experience and knowledge and be the best candidate and the best fit, because they simply don't have the PNG designation.
Okay, go ahead, Kelsey, you get the follow-up, then we'll go.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, but then we will then be relying again on consultants to tell us everything that we're doing, because this person cannot speak to it. So we're putting ourselves, and this goes back to probably Deputy Mayor's point, that we're doing this review of the positions, and maybe we need to wait till that if in fact you believe that this person should hold a different section, not a director, should be higher than a director. But I think we're putting the head engineering at a complete disadvantage by not having them have that. They can't then speak with that. Like I don't want to speak about the last guy, but a lot of the stuff he couldn't. He had to take the word of the consultant, even if it wasn't.
We'll let that one. No speaking on it, okay? Paul?
He's not there.
Yep. Deputy Mayor, then Councillor Woolsey.
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate everything, CAO, and certainly the comments from Councillor Brennan. Mount Purchase wastewater treatment plant has certainly been a topic of discussion for the last 18 months around this table, and a topic of frustration for many of us. We have a consultant working on that, so that project itself, for the next period of time, is implementing the interim solution, and until that's done, there's really nothing else occurring there. We have people on staff that operate the plant, and we have a consultant that we're paying to do all of the work there and run all of that work. That was part of what we just agreed to when we put them in place. So Mount Bridges wastewater, for me, we're waiting for the interim solution. We've been promised it's going to work. So we need to get that done. That's not going to happen anytime before September, when the service delivery review comes back. The road, Queen Street, we have a manager who's obviously up on it. He spoke to us tonight, seems to be very well versed in it. I have full confidence in his ability to run that. I think on a day-to-day basis, that is exactly what the manager does do. If he needs help, there are, certainly we have engineers at the county level that can assist. Or if we needed to, we can hire another consultant, engineer, whatever we need there to specifically look after the municipality's interests on that project. I agree with Councillor Derbyshire. We are putting the cart before the horse too often and rushing through things because I guess we feel a need to. There's just not a need to rush at this point in time on this. We're doing a service delivery review for a very specific reason, and we're spending a lot of money to have it done. I don't know why we're filling in full-time positions prior to getting that report. Otherwise, I don't know that we need the report. So that's where I stand, thank you.
Okay, any, Counselor Hippel, she hasn't asked a question, she's dead, Counselor Kennis.
Okay, so it's a comment, so through yourselves to just, I'm making a comment. I also don't think rushing is a good thing. However, I know that we're doing a service delivery review. I know that. We need to have that done. But I also know that when we chose and worked hard and came up with a very successful candidate, and we have hired a CAO, and one of the things that we talked about was we would let our new CAO create a team that would work effectively, efficiently, and well within our municipality. And I guess, I mean, no, I don't want to hire tomorrow. So the rushing thing kind of freaks me out a little bit, but I certainly don't want to wait until September. I think, I mean, our manager of roads is doing a good job. Our manager of drains, I don't know if he's a manager, so I apologize if that's wrong. I know that he's been working very hard, and I know that we can rely on the county, and I mean, I think we're really lucky that we can do that. Yes, we have to pay for that service every time we use the county, and we have to pay, but at the same time, I think we have to have a little faith and hope that I'm actually not sure how to present this. I just think that we have to have faith that our CAO and the HR department and know what they're doing when they're putting something together to hire the best team that they can possibly have to work with the people that we have here. Anyways, that's
Counselor
it.
Kennis.
I just want to say, like, service delivery review has many heads, and it's not just about engineering and public works. There's going to be many tentacles to it, and so to say, it's totally geared towards this position. That's not the case. The biggest role of this person, as the CAO said, is a manager of people, and probably the manager of one of the largest groups of professionals within the organization. And so I think it's important that we have someone in place and that we move forward with filling the position. And there's a move here to slow everything down, and I'm of the opposite opinion. We've got to move forward. If we don't move forward, then we're not doing our job.
Okay, Counselor Wilsey, then I'm gonna make a comment, then we'll bring it to a vote.
So, my comment is one.
Sorry, I didn't see, sorry, Counselor Palmer.
My comment was just with the engineering designation. I think that's very important for a director of engineering to have. If you look at some of the things we even brought up tonight, we had the Queen Street project that we looked at. We were told tonight, after an engineer reviewed it, that we can't do it in the order we wanted to because we had to do the drain first. But we've already done phase one that didn't have a drain. And now we can't do phase two until another year because we need to wait for a drain. If we had an engineer, that conversation probably would have been started a whole lot sooner. We wouldn't have had to gone on to a consultant to pay somebody else to design that to find out we have to change this to a 3-year project. There's a lot of things that are costing us money and are being delayed and are having to send out to consultants because we don't have an engineer in that position. So I would say, if we're going to hire now, we need the engineering to be a requirement. Not an asset, it needs to be a requirement. I think we're losing too much. We're too big of a municipality to not have an engineer on staff in that position. And it goes back to what I've said before. Do we want to be a big municipality and do things the way the big guys do? Or do we want to be a small town mindset who just spends a lot of money? We have to decide what we want to be.
Okay, Counselor Palmer.
Yeah, through the chair to the CAO. I guess I just wanted to hear from you how you felt about doing this position now when we have a service review coming in, because I assume you've been through service reviews before. And how, because, I just want to hear from your perspective why you think that even though there's a service review coming, that we should go ahead.
I don't think the service review is going to tell us that we don't need a director of engineering or a director of public works. I think that this position is a key position, and I'm sorry if I alluded to moving quickly. I just meant I would like to fill this position following the process that we would follow. So we're not rushing the process. We have reviewed the job description. We will do the standard posting for the timeline that we do. We would do the regular process for interviews. It's just, I don't want to delay this. We need this position. Our managers have been doing a great job, but there is a lot of weight that are on our current managers, and the work is sort of being spread out, and that means that other projects aren't being done and other work's not being done. So I see the need to fill this position. This is a key position, and I don't think waiting for the service delivery review is going to tell us anything different. We're just going to be months behind.
Okay, go, wait one second, have you asked Councillor Altman, sorry.
No, I haven't.
So then I'll go back to, yep.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I guess, just my comment is, I've known for years that the sewage and the stormwater would have to go down Queen Street. We were told that probably 8 to 10 years ago. It's been spoken about, but you're just coming online now. And so, you know, the world didn't start the day you came on the council. We knew that Queen Street had to be done, and that some of it could go down Maitland as an interim process, but those large portions of undeveloped land are undeveloped because they had to wait for the stormwater pond to be built, which the outlet is Queen Street. That we've known for quite some time. And I'm not casting aspersions, I'm just
Well,
drawing on the history.
the only
that-
thing, my comment was that in.
Yeah, point of order.
Out of order?
So,
Just,
I-
this is not gonna debate here, folks.
yeah, I'm really not trying to
Not
criticize,
gonna
I'm just
debate.
saying that there's history there
Yeah.
that we knew about.
Okay, I think it might be best if we're gonna, because we've all spoken to this.
Sure.
And, when Councillor Derbyshire, I think, because I want to move this to a vote, I want to make a comment.
But what I do want to say is that we need someone who's going to develop a budget for next year. We need someone who's going to manage the staffing. If the service reviews ends up saying that we require an engineer on staff, we're still going to require that director to do that paperwork, and the engineer will probably be doing something different and more specific.
Okay, sorry, Councillor Derbyshire, then we're going to bring this to a vote.
I could be wrong, again, I just started, but does a manager not manage the people? Okay, does the director not go between the projects and the manager? So when we go like, oh, he's gotta manage all these people, no, he's gotta manage one person, the manager, or two, again, he's got two. But when we say he has to deal with the project people, they have an engineer. They're putting the plans forward. They're like that side of it. So maybe maybe we need to break this down into engineering and public works, and you split this job. Maybe that's what needs to happen. I think we're putting ourselves at a disadvantage to sit without an engineer, without having this position have that. And if all this does is manage people, then we have 3 people managing the people, working underneath them.
Okay. I hear everybody, but I think it's time to bring this. I'll make my final comment. A lot of the comments that were made, including with the deputy mayor, I've actually agreed with. And I've actually voiced those to the CAO. We do talk, but I respect the CAO to say that she knows our opinion, but we hired her to do a job, and we enlisted her to do the job, and she can take our council under advice. But we do have a motion in front of us that council directs staff to update the 2004 hiring policy and bring back to council for consideration. So someone to bring that motion. Councillor Kennis, seconded by Councillor Palmer. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Let's see, Economic Development Target Sector Report. Motion to receive the report. Motion to receive the report. Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Carried. So I see Heather coming up. I had Tricia wrote down, so we'll turn it over to Heather.
Surprise. Good evening, Council. Before you tonight is a report regarding a target sector report. I applied for some CAN Export Communities Investment funding earlier this year and was successful in being awarded $18,000 that would be contributed towards this project. What this project entails is actually confirming the target sectors that we have identified in the current strategic plan that also align with the county's strategic plan, including advanced manufacturing, agra, and small business. So this firm, this consulting firm, would do research to ensure that we are still on target with those sectors or identify any other opportunities in different sectors. I think I did request 3 quotes, only received 2 because of the, actually the project's quite small in the consultant world. The first one is with Research FDI. That firm provided a very fulsome proposal that was more data-driven in their work versus the other one that was more consultation with existing businesses in the community. I think it's really important when you're doing economic development that everything is data-driven, that it makes sense. And this will allow us at 50-cent dollars to take advantage of getting this work completed. I'm not sure that anything like this has been done in the past, so I think it's a good tool to have in the economic development toolbox. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Councillor Wilsey.
Just wondering, do you share how this lines up with our settlement boundary expansion? Because we look at our settlement boundary expansion and the land we still have left to sell, we only have a few acres left. And if we look at the settlement boundary, we're only putting a couple acres in, and we were told we don't need any new development in Mount Ridges, and we're landlocked in Strathroy without new land. So to spend more money on this, I understand it is to target the sectors, but if we don't have any land and we have no place for something significant to build, why do we need a study? I guess that's my question.
Through the chair to Councillor Wilsey, the municipality doesn't own a lot of industrial service land at this point, but there are some opportunities to work with some privately held lands that are designated industrial up in Molnar Industrial Park. So it's important that we ensure that we're still targeting sectors. You know, a lot of municipalities don't have municipally owned land, but they work with landowners that do.
Go ahead.
I get that part.
Yeah.
But I guess the question is, when we talk in planning, when we talk about needing businesses and needing more land, we're told that we don't need any more land because that's what the consultants told us for the planning. So if we don't need more land and we can't bring it into the settlement boundary because our planning department doesn't say it, it doesn't matter who owns it if we can't bring it in. It's kind of what
CEO is going to chime in.
So there, if I may, through the chair, there is already land within the settlement boundary that's in the hands of private owners. So there's already land within Molnar Park or adjacent to it, within the boundaries of Strathroy-Caradoc that has the opportunity to be future industrial.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, we have a motion that council approve the retention of Research FDI to complete a target sector analysis and marketing material development as per the proposal received in the amount of $23,750 excluding HST. Someone to bring the motion. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Palkman. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Heather. There are, if I do my count right, 4 reports from boards and committees. Before we bring a motion, did anyone have any questions regarding any of the minutes? I actually have one, and it's to somebody who may be on the Tri-Township arena, because I did read that the budget was approved. Does the Tri-Township budget come back to council for approval?
Yeah.
It doesn't? Okay, I didn't, the question I had. Yep. So motion that the reports from boards and committees be received for information. Summary from Councillor Kennis, Deputy Mayor, all in favor, carried. Deputy Mayor, County Council report.
I would love to give one, however, we haven't had a meeting for some period of time. So I unfortunately have nothing to tell you.
There we go. Inquiries and comments, we'll start with Councillor Hippel.
Thank you. I've got a couple, actually I have 4 things. 2 really fun things. First, I just want to say thank you. I mean, some people have left already, but thank you to everyone that came out tonight, and I'm very thankful to the staff and everyone that put their time and effort in to get us here. I know it was a bit difficult, but at the end of the day, it's important to be here, and I think it makes a lot of sense for us to be able to bring the municipal meeting to Mount Bridges, and I'm pretty thrilled with this. I also see past council members sitting in our audience, and so I was going to give a little shout out, whether he was here or not tonight, to his grandson. So shout out to Easton Cowan for being an MVP for the Ontario Hockey League, which is a huge honor, as well as his OHL team, the London Knights, named him the most outstanding player. So from someone in our community that grew up playing hockey, not just in Mount Bridges, but in Strathroy, and then obviously with the Canucks. He has done amazing things, and he continues to give it back to our community, which is fantastic. So anyways, congratulations. But now I want to move on to a couple different things. I have been contacted by various mothers, fathers, guardians that were having issues in Mount Bridges, Adelaide and Bowen. And I know that it has been talked about that there is money in the budget that we would be putting a crosswalk there. So I just wanted to bring it out to council here, just to make sure that that was there in the budget. I just don't want to be talking out of turn when I'm speaking to people that are having issues. That was my first one.
Can I interject on that one? Because I had the conversation
Yeah.
with Manager Easter, so we talked about the crosswalk at, because we can answer your question right now, maybe.
Okay.
On Adelaide and Bowen. I believe we did put it in the budget, correct? We put for 2 crosswalks in.
I'm gonna defer to
the budget.
Okay.
So no use waiting, we'll get you the.
Yeah, that's great.
I believe we did, one in Adelaide and Bowen and then one in Strathroy. You'll look for it while you bring your second
Okay,
up.
and then the second one is, sorry, Director Huff. But South Grove Park's not really Director Littleborn, who's not here. The assumption, we haven't assumed that area, and obviously the park is still sitting there not as a park. Again, I haven't been here that long, but the whole entire time I have been here, this has been an issue, and it's not, it's when the homeowners decided to build their homes there, it was known that there would be a park eventually, not immediately, but eventually there would be a park. There was all sorts of stages and areas that had to be done before this happened, and it just, each year it just goes, it's just being said next year, and then it's being said next year, and then it's next year. And honestly, I'm really afraid when they call me, and or if I see them at the school or I see them anywhere, I almost want to duck, because I'm like, oh, they're gonna ask me about the park, and I'm gonna say I'm pretty sure it's next year, and I know it's not next year. So maybe an update or some type of not a pure concrete answer, maybe a tar and chip answer, but something that I can say that they'll be able to grab and have a little hope on would be fabulous.
Sure.
Sure.
Through the worship to Councillor Hippel. So I believe this week, in fact, other work being done by the engineering department will be a tender for 2 projects related to this assumption. So the assumption of the project is being delayed until we have some progress on the stormwater management issues there. Progress is made by way of the Strathroy crossings drain that needs to be constructed to provide an outlet to that subdivision, as well as Saxton Road is going to be updated as well along that to help convey the water from that subdivision into the drain part. And then internally in that subdivision, there'll be a modification to the last phase of the development, which includes 2 of the lots is going to be turned into a storm pond and outlet into the drain. So the tender is going out this week for the drain and Saxton Road. So we'll be very busy managing that with some of this help on our end. And then the thought was we are hopeful that there'll be some coordination of the internal improvements to the storm inside will happen this year as well. And provided that happens, then once those improvements are made internally, we'll be in a position to consider assumption, because we don't want to assume any more roads or areas that need improvement with respect to their stormwater, additional storms.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Sorry. So have we ever been able to put, like, without assuming the roads, without assuming the last phase, like, have we ever done just put a park where it should be without having that assumption in place? Is that even a possibility?
Through your worship, to Councilor Hickle again, no. Typically, the practice is that the assumption, there is certain, what we can do in the future, and what we are starting to do is look at the phasing for future plans of subdivisions, so that we place parks or place the phases in such a way that the parks come online earlier in the assumption process. Fortunately, that wasn't the case here, but there's some liability concerns both for the municipality and for the developer, because that has been a discussion with the developer, is whether or not even he would wish us to take the park without it being assumed, and there's actually some liability concerns that his insurance company is concerned about. And so we have investigated those options. But we're hopeful that, you know, it's taken, and I appreciate the patience of the neighborhood. It's taken a long time to do a deep dive into the original engineering, to come up with an engineering plan to tender, to get the project ready for tender, and to actually execute the fixes that are required for that subdivision before we continue on.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Councilor?
Did we find out about
Yeah.
So, through the chair to Councilor Hippel, so the only crosswalks that were in the budget were in 2023. And my understanding is, I think that was the one that had in Metcalf, and then the one at by the school in Mount Bridges by Glendon. So there's been nothing in the budget, and there's nothing in 2024 budget for crosswalks.
We'll revisit that one.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll go back.
Okay, thank you.
I was pretty sure we brought a motion to bring it in. Councilor Cass.
I mentioned earlier that I attended the OGRA, or Ontario Good Roads Conference, a couple weeks ago in Toronto. I mentioned the infrastructure deficit, the numbers, the 45 billion that seems to be traveling around the province. So again, the Premier was there with promises, but no money. So we'll see what happens. Want to mention a couple other things. Nigel Belchamber and Fred Dean were honored with honorary life memberships to OGRA for their work in assisting municipalities across the province. And there was a lot of applause and recognition for the work that they've done in just making councils better at what they do. And the last thing, just on a number of municipalities, especially those in the Toronto area, mentioning they have tax increase of at least 10% for 2024, and it seems to be that 10% is far more prevalent than the 5% number that we had. So yeah, every municipality is facing challenges when it comes to budget at this point.
Okay, thanks. Councilor Wilsey.
Just wanted to repeat a little bit about what I said before about a good news story about municipalities being able to develop their own land, put in business parks, and be sustainable. Had a great visit with the mayor and some of the other councillors when I was out. It was in Alberta, but still they were able. They have a very similar municipality to ours with the same highway that runs through, same distance from a major city, and they were able to develop enough. They started about 7 or 8 years ago with the right staff and the right planning They focused on planning, focused on setting aside land, putting infrastructure ready where it could be serviced in large tracts, and they've got Amazon warehouses and all sorts of different things. They're putting up hundreds of millions of dollars to their assessment every year. We can do that. We have the same area. We just need the proper staff, right direction, and focus, and I believe we could be there too.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Brennan.
Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Pell.
I think maybe you might be speaking to an event that four of us were at last week, but I just wanted to thank the recreation staff for the fun event at Gemini for the baseball community. They did a great job, and a lot of kids had a lot of fun while we were there. So,
Okay, Councillor Derbyshire.
I'm just gonna start off and thank everybody for hosting us here. That was great. Nice to be in Mount Bridges. And just a reminder that planting season has started, so the tractors and us slow-moving vehicles are back out on the road. So kind of just give us a wave and, you know, maybe a nod, and off we'll go, and we'll try to move slow and stay off your main roads. But other than that, I thank you, and hopefully everybody has a good season.
Okay, Councillor Pammer.
Yeah, just a reminder that the downtown Strathroy Market, the night market, is coming up on the 18th, so in a couple of weeks on a Saturday. And the downtown, just a reminder too, that the roads will close on Frankenfront a little early to prepare for that. So if you need to come downtown on that Saturday with your vehicle, just be aware of that, or come down earlier in the morning, and hope to see everybody out at the nighttime market.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I just have two items. I guess through you, Your Worship, I'm just looking for assurances that this is the first time I've seen the hiring policy, and just looking to ensure that until such time as we change it, that it is followed. And quite honestly, I'm looking at section 4, subsection 5, and clause C, although they use Roman numerals and dots, but that's essentially how you would find it, and also section 5. So, and then my next question would be through you to the CAO or the clerk. Is there a portal or somewhere that all policies could be placed for easy access by council? I'm sure there's policies I couldn't even imagine that are there, but without scanning some sort of an index, someday when I'm wanting to get some sleep, I'll scan them and read them, but I don't know if that's something that can sit inside of eScribe or...
Yes, through the chair of the deputy mayor, that's exactly it. There is an area of eScribe where we can post, you know, where we have been posting step-by-step guides. We can certainly post policies as well for members.
I would appreciate that, if that could be done. Thank you. Other than that, it's great to be in Mount Bridges. They're always great hosts.
Wait till we go to Melbourne.
Where is that?
That way. All right, folks, I have nothing, so council will move into closed session at 8:32 for the purpose of discussing the following. 2 items in accordance with council's procedure bylaw to approve in-camera meeting minutes, and to receive 1 notice of motion for discussion at a future council meeting. 1 item pursuant to section 239 2I of the Municipal Act as amended regarding the trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence in municipality or local board, which if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. Service delivery review tender. Motion to go into closed session. Yes, we will. Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Carried. We'll take a 10-minute break. Motion to close session adjourn at is 9:01 PM. Motion to adjourn close and open session resume. Councillor Pelkman, Deputy Mayor, all in favor, carried. Council met in closed session. Bear with me, I gotta read it again. To discuss two items in accordance with council's procedure bylaw to approve in-camera meeting minutes and one item pursuant to section 239-2I of the Municipal Act of 2001. Motion of the direction in closed session be approved. Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Kennis, all in favor, carried. Bylaws.
Okay, the first bylaw this evening for council's consideration is bylaw number 4024, which is the bylaw to provide for the construction of the Thornton Drain 2024. We're looking for first and second reading only of bylaw 4024.
Motion that bylaw receive first, second reading only. Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Hippel, all in favor, carried.
The next bylaw this evening is bylaw 4124. This is referred from the previous meeting where council approved a planning fee refund policy. This is the enacting bylaw, number 4124.
Motion that bylaw receive first, second, third, and final reading. Councillor Pelkman, second by Councillor Palmer, all in favor, carried.
Bylaw number 4324 is a bylaw to provide for the adoption of 2024 tax rates and to further provide for penalty and interest in default of payment thereof.
That bylaw receive first, second, third, and final reading. Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Kennis, all in favor, carried.
Bylaw number 4424 is a bylaw to authorize the execution of a community improvement plan, additional unit and beautification grant agreement between the Corporation of the Municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc and Nicholas and Diana Forget regarding 89 Frank Street, Strathroy.
That bylaw receive first, second, third, and final reading. Councillor Kennis, Councillor Palmer, all in favor, carried.
Bylaw number 4524 is a bylaw to authorize the execution of a community improvement plan beautification grant agreement between the municipality and Alicia and Michael Glazer regarding 35 Front Street, West Strathroy.
Motion that bylaw receive first, second, third, and final reading. Councillor Pelkman, Councillor Brennan, all in favor, carried.
Bylaw number 4624 is a bylaw to authorize the execution of a community improvement plan beautification grant agreement between the municipality and Dale Ross, Ruth Terpstra, Steve Boucher, and Melissa Boucher regarding 79 Thomas Street, Strathroy.
That bylaw receive first, second, third, and final reading. Councillor Pelkman, Deputy Mayor, all in favor, carried.
Bylaw number 4724 is a bylaw to authorize the execution of a pre-servicing agreement between the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc and 1960726 Ontario Inc.
Motion that bylaw receive first, second, third, and final reading. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Palmer, all in favor, carried.
And finally, bylaw number 4824 is a bylaw to confirm this evening's proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc.
Motion that bylaw receive first, second, third, and final reading. Councillor Pelkman, second by Councillor Kennis, all in favor, carried. Motion that the May 6, 2024 regular council meeting adjourned at 9:04 PM. Councillor Brennan, Councillor Pelkman, all in favor, carried.